Hello, this is just a very quick sort of 15-minute sketch of You Wish You Were Here basics album the sort of basic album cover of the Pink Floyd album. And superficially you've got this picture very much in keeping with sort of American TV in the 70s. You had these businessmen seem to be meeting on industrial estates and doing these deals. But what I actually discovered while looking at the images of the album cover, there is no definitive cover as such. I'll explain why. What I've actually seen just from doing a search, Pink Floyd Wish You Were Here album, and then clicking on images and pulling up the various images, what you'll find is you have some of them will show this drain cover, and I don't know if it's actually a cropped picture. There's certainly one that is more of a landscape, which shows far more of this building on this side and on this side, and there's like an extension that comes out. But here's the curious thing with that with the variations in these pictures. Superficially, it looks to be symmetrical, but certainly in the image that is of a more landscape orientation, and one or two of the others, this figure on the right is far more upright, and the flames are very different. The extension of the building that's missing in a lot of the other pictures is much higher up. It's above the head of this one, but then on other ones it's much lower down, and it also has this number 20 that is obscured by what looks to be the corner of a sloping roof, but it also looks, and it varies again, it looks to almost be like a forearm and in sort of a dark colour clothing, and then a white glove. So you're seeing sort of the underside. I don't know if I can actually do it. So you're actually seeing the hand from that sort of angle. And yet I've also seen one that doesn't have anything on the end, and some will have this number 20. They all seem to have the number 20 on the front of this like warehouse, but this seems to move position to sort of so it's above the head of this figure. And then on the one I've seen more often, this figure is more sort of leaning forward as if he's collapsing, whether he's burning to death or whatever. And of course with the landscape one, you're missing this drain cover, and it gives a different sort of impression. So the one I've actually drawn here, I'm going to give you a breakdown. What we're actually looking at is basically something like this. The cross in the circle, and then within a cube. It seems to suggest something about this reality. So let's just have a look at what we've got here. The album is called Wish You Were Here, and I'm sure when you've made contact with people through social media and they're on the same sort of vibration, you're able to talk about the same subjects, usually in the metaphysical or in the truth-seeking, and the other person responds, they're on the same wavelength. And you have that sort of thought more often than not that, oh, why do they have to live somewhere else, miles away, sometimes on a different continent, and I wish you were here. But what is actually being shown is just one character, and it is what is going on. I mean, you are the center point, you are the whole point of everything around you, you are right there. So what you have here, you have this figure who's looking to the right, you have this figure that's looking to the left. Now the buildings on the left are lighter. They're with sunlight upon them. The buildings on the right are in shadow. So effectively you've got this character on the left who's looking towards the shadows. But of course, from a gap in these shadows comes the sunlight, which casts a line right the way across. This character generally is leaning forward like he's about to possibly collapse, and they're shaking hands. What this is actually, well, how I interpret this, you are facing your shadow side, you are making peace with yourself, you are coming to an agreement. Now what you have on the foreground of most of these images is this shadow. Then it gives the impression of being like a circle, like you've got a spotlight coming down right in the middle here. Right, as if it was like a world stage and the spotlight is right coming down here. Right basically where these two are shaking hands. So I see this as you are facing your shadow side, you are coming into balance with yourself. So you have this circle here, you have this shadow here. Now, wish you were here. In other words, it's your higher self saying, I wish you were at this point. It's not a physical location when we're talking about wish you were here. This is all going on internally. So if you come out of the shadows of the material world, be careful, because there is a double drain here. It's where your energy can go if you're lured by all these rabbit holes. And when I say rabbit holes, I'm not talking necessarily about conspiracy theories. I'm talking about you want to come out of the shadows and into this area of light, but a quick fix and you end up going down this drain. So it could be an addiction, for example, an escapism from this reality by trying to blot it out. So it could be drugs, alcohol, gambling addiction, anything that is you're trying to get yourself out of that feeling of I don't like this world, basically. But of course, when you face your shadow side, what is also interesting is where these lines bisect these two. So you could say this first line, this edge of this circle, almost represents the waistline, where you haven't got to this agreement. But then you also have this halfway line on these physical bodies, the meeting in the middle, as it were, in this material world. But of course, if you raise your vibration, you go to the top here. This is a building in the background, and that's like the top edge of it, the sort of roof of it. So you're raising your vibration, and now it is becoming heart-centered. Above this line is just blue sky. So you have this contrast on the vertical axis of the blue skies above. The light is coming between what appears to be shadows when we face our shadow side. And the shadow side is burning because you're burning away, you're surrendering your old shadow self that is leading you to this side, which looks to be in the light. And of course they're warehouses, they're for storing and for hoarding. So taking a step out of the shadow on your path, you're actually going on this, you're doing this ascension and you're going in deeper into the image, as it were, within yourself, until you can reach this midpoint on both axes, this cross, as it were, where you are in agreement with yourself. You're not pulling in two directions, and This one is starting to surrender, as it were, to this one by coming in agreement. That also, I feel, is why it's shown falling forward in some of the images, though, like I say, some of them it is upright, and again the telltale sign is, has it got that number 20, has it got a building? But notice also on this shadow side, now we talk about the hidden hand, certainly in some of these images it looks more like to be a forearm with a white glove, so it's hardly a hidden hand. And this number 20, I would imagine, is also highly significant. It's also, if you'll notice on the album cover, on this side of the picture, like I say, it's not quite symmetrical because you have this arm or this edge of this roof. You have this like cutout bit. And it looks to be like burnt. It's like the flames are coming up from this shadow side and burning away and revealing more. After I drew this, I had I sort of did a second glance, thought, why have I drawn an eye up there? It's not, it's actually a light, but it's like, well, was I meant to see that? Was I meant to share that part, that there's like an eye that's being shown? And it is rather strange why you've got this almost like burnt edge on some of these album cover images. Not all of them. Some of them are just straight down, and also there's this issue with this bit. You could almost say it's an unfolding Mandela effect, because when I looked at the images, I thought, hold on a minute, there should be a drain at the bottom here, which is not in the one picture, and then there's these variations on this bit, and of course you have one image that is a much wider landscape, but the figure is more upright. So make of that what you will as far as that part goes. But what I feel, just to recap, what you're being shown here, wish you were here. It's your higher self wishing, is saying to you, this is the point you want to get to, where you are in total agreement with yourself. You are at this center point between, we could call it ascension or going in deeper. You're also seeing both sides of things. And notice also, it's almost hinting at, you have these realities that look very similar. One is hidden in shadow, the other one appears to be in light. But the one that is upright, or seems to be upright in every picture, that seems to be, when you're in the avatar, in this material realm, facing his shadow side, but is looking towards what would appear to be darkness, because there is light within that darkness to be discovered. So just my interpretation, but I just thought it was interesting how it's got this appearance of what looks like a circle, this double drain, these two figures, the handshake, the near mirrored buildings, the blue sky, the shadow. I'm sure there's a lot more in this. If I looked even deeper into it, there's like it looks to be like a fire escape on the side here of this one building. I'm sure there's more symbology to be found in this. Also, this number 20 again. The trouble is, I'm working with a phone screen, so even pulling up images on Google, I'm limited to how far I can zoom in and really have a look at these. But quite a few things to sort of look at there, and it does seem to suggest it's like a code that's being revealed. Now, superficially, my first thought was, oh yeah, two guys, a business deal on an industrial estate, warehouses in the background. Never thought any more of it, but I feel this all does come down to what level you're vibrating at, as to how much is being presented to you and whether you can then decode it. But this is basically for the decode of the dark side of the moon, and the decode I will be doing on this Wish You Were Here album from 1975. Again, published by Harvest Records and Columbia Records on the 12th of September 1975, I believe it was. whereas Dark Side of the Moon was 1st of March 1973. There's no coincidences with any of these things. All these little details have significance and have a meaning, because it is all a presentation on a world stage. It is one huge theatre show. So Wish You Were Here is being the observer of yourself and your shadow self, and finding that agreement within yourself, finding the balance between the light and the dark, and realizing also things are not what they always appear to be. It's sometimes there as a hand, but it's a left arm, and it's not hidden on some of the images. So make of that what you will in regard to that thing called the hidden hands, that have not found a mirror counterpart on this side. So I thought that is another little interesting detail that may want to weigh up. I don't say I've got the answers. This is just purely my interpretation. I know nothing at all really of Pink Floyd. When I was looking at the lyrics, it comes across on that immediate level that it is a very personal, biographical songwriting, but that is the beauty of this realm. There is multiple meanings depending on what frequency you're on, what resonates with you, as to whether you see or hear these things, but they are all there to be found. So it's all about getting to this meeting point within oneself, this finding this internal balance between your light and shadow side and bringing them into one, and means going in deeper into the picture, as it were, all the pictures that are presented to you, but also the ability to see the bigger picture and notice the positioning of things, the awareness, shall we say, of where things are on all things that are presented to you, and how do you feel about the things, what is being shown to you, why have these little odd strange things, like why is there that little bit extra on some of the images and then not on others. So hopefully that's giving you a different perspective, another way of doing that, at least considering that inner work within inside yourself and addressing yourself. And no better place to start than go across to Simplicity Revealed channel, look at the playlist section. You've got Language Lessons of the Heart, Workshops and Talks. That's LLOTH, Loth Workshops. That's the inner work. That will definitely get you to this point here, rather than you're expelling all your energy when you start walking your path and it all goes down this double drain, and it drains away and feeds your energy. Because to me, my perspective is the common denominator with everything in this reality, it all seems to be to keep you in a low vibration, which would imply some sort of harvesting of that frequency. Because if we're on a certain frequency and we start to see and hear things and experience different things, when we're in that most negative low state, maybe we're more palatable to something that is on that state and needs to continuously feed. And working on exactly the same principle as the magnet, that it creates its own food source. So it does make you wonder as well about what is this reality. You're always talking about squaring the circle and so on, and certainly in that album cover you have that cross, that mirroring between light and dark, above and below, and light and dark in this material realm, as it were. So love to you all, and ta-ta for now.